Thereafter, I found that there is a lot of disconnect between the historical text. The problem is you have not understood the tradition correctly. Selectively accepted something and selectively rejected many things, and then you build upon a history of India. There is some kind of a motive to distort the narrative. What happened with Indian history, both sides it affected. 1784, that Asiatic Society of Bengal, William Jones, he came, and then they started coming up with the modern Indian historical research. Anybody is disputing the dating of Mahabharata? Our tradition is unanimous. 32nd century BC is the Mahabharata. When Western historians came, they started validating the chronology. They never accepted. They simply asked, because we said you are following a Shaka calendar. Yes, today is so and so date, so and so Shaka. In is their mindset. They think that if you are something talking about beyond 2000 or 3000 BC, you are a fool, or you are actually talking something beyond science. It's not science. Their entire Greek tradition is saying that 9,000 years before the Plato's lifetime, an Atlantis city was submerged by sea. So he simply rejected. So naturally, he said color. Naturally, we South Indians are a little black than the North Indian a little fair. So then, okay, you are different race. We never built means Indian kings never built any memorials for themselves, the way the Egyptians and others, they have done it. And same thing has been recorded by Megasthenes. Indian kings never built anything. They're like a common people, and after death, cremation, that's all. No memorial will be built over it. Why they are thinking, even though they accept Tolkappiyam, but they say it is too much of Sanskrit words he is using, that's why he must be dated after 800 AD something. But if you true dating, whatever the dating Tamil Nadu followed, they are actually dating Tolkappiyam in the second Sangam period.
Namaste and a very warm welcome to this special series of podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. Vedveer Arya. He's a senior officer from the Ministry of Defence, currently serving as the Additional Financial Advisor and Joint Secretary in the Department of Defence R&D, Ministry of Defence. And he is a distinguished member of Indian Defence Account Services as well. And he has written various books and seminars, and he has attended various seminars and conferences as well. So we will look into a brief account of what he has written. He has written a book titled of Indian Contribution to Mathematics and Astronomy in the year 2014 and the Chronology of Ancient India, Victim of Concussions and Distortions in the year 2015, the Chronology of India from Manu to Mahabharata, the Chronology of India from Mahabharata to Medieval Era, the Origin of Christian Era, Fact or Fiction. So these are the various books which has been written by Dr. Vedveer Arya. Namaste sir, it's a pleasure talking to you, I must say, and amazed by the work which you have done, and I must say you are a ocean of knowledge as well. So thank you for coming into our podcast. So thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, namaste, and I thank you for inviting me for on this podcast. Yes, that last 15 years my research on the chronology. So that's why the chronology is the subject. You have to address it in totality, not you can do in pockets. That's why this work is a little voluminous.
Okay, sir. Sir, chronology, if we start diving into it, it will go as long as we go. It is deeper and deeper as much. So, what are the challenges you faced, and how have you got interest in this area, sir? Especially because chronology is something where many historians would have worked, but as an army officer as well, how did you got interest in this area, sir?
No, basically during my childhood also I read the history. Thereafter I studied the Sanskrit text very extensively. Thereafter I found that there is a lot of disconnect between the historical text or textbooks being taught in universities and colleges and what is actually really we have the literary evidence. The problem is you have not understood the tradition correctly. Selectively accepted something and selectively rejected many things, and then you build upon a history of India. The entire tradition says that you have Indian civilization is much more ancient than what is actually presently not more than 1500 BC. So that led me to first to understand what are the errors in the chronology, because the chronology is the foundation of history. If your foundation itself is very loose, then whatever the edifice you will build upon foundations will not be correct. So that's why it is a basic science for the not only science, linguistics, as well as the many scientific subject based on chronology. Therefore, this basic science has to be first mastered. Okay. And unfortunately, no university has any department of chronology. So it means that they think that there is no need for further research on chronology. So I actually want to tell them that no, there is a lot to research on the chronology. So we must have a separate department in all academic institutions called Department of Chronology.
Okay.
Mm.
So, sir, I think many history or historians have made some false accusation about our Indian history as well, where they made with some intentions, because this is the where this is the place where I think we have to touch a little about.
Yes.
So the distortion of history, Indian history, had been done for the very long time. And even we have peoples who praise Aurangzeb, who praise all these invaders as well. So what do you think? Where did these historians went wrong, or where this commentators went wrong? Actually, sir.
It is actually how to write a narrative of a civilization. It depends upon. But the distortions in the narrative is the one aspect. Second is, since there are inherent comings in the chronology, due to that you have no other option to write a particular narrative. So there are two problems here. So generally, a Westerner who historians, whenever they are even leftist historians, they generally look at the civilizational history negatively. So that's why they only look at that only exploitations, or you are not so progressive, or they just blame that whatever history, it is nothing great where any real values existed. So, and even always blaming India that there is too much of inequality, but every human society has inequality. Yes, there is some kind of a motive to distort the narrative. What happened in with Indian history, both sides it affected. First, the narrative part, where they purposefully they wanted to portray India such a way so that Western rulers can prolong their rule as long as possible. So they wanted to divide us. And how you can rule over a person having a self-respect? You have to tell them that you have so many shortcomings. Your society is like that. So you first undermine his self-respect. So with this way, this is the one way. But the chronology is not like that, that you can distort as you wish. That's why all Western chronologists, they have followed a methodology, and same yardstick they have used to every world. But there was fundamentally three main blunders they have created when arriving the Indian chronology. First is, there is a Shaka Samvat. Okay, always they start from the 70th. Yes, this was our tradition. We are following a calendar. But when you study deeply the Indian literary evidences and the epigraphic evidences, there was another ancient Shaka era existed. Okay, now they clubbed into two. That's why what happened? Indian history, chronological history, has been brought forward by 661 years. Due to that, many characters or many historical figures became mythical, like Vikramaditya, 1st century BC. There is no way in now, no historian claims that is historically true. There are thousands of inscription, continuous tradition of using Vikrama Samvat from 57 BC. But Vikramaditya not exist. Why? Due to mixing up of these two eras into one. This is an error. Why this error happened? It's not the Britishers have done purposefully. We have forgotten, since we are mentioning the same name Shaka Shaka. So then even in South India, every era is synonymous to Shaka. But it is actually one Shaka king initiated. It's not that every era must be named as a Shaka. Shaka word is only because in South India we just call even Christu Shaka. And that Shaka has nothing to do with the Christ. Okay. So this is the one problem. Second, the Buddha Nirvana that has been brought forward by more than 1380 years. Due to that, Adi Shankaracharya, where all our Kanchi Pitham and Puri and Dwaraka, they claim that Adi Shankaracharya lived 6th century BC. Since Buddha has been brought forward by 1380 years, no, Adi Shankara has to be placed even further 1300. That's why Adi Shankaracharya has no place before 8th century at present. So these are the two major blunders when we look at the Indian chronology. But when third one is much more complex, entire world chronology has been reconciled last 400 years, considering the first AD as a sheet anchor. The first AD is Jesus' birth. How that has been established, that needs to be validated. Till now, it's only a Western belief. First AD is the why first AD has to be the sheet anchor for the or world chronology. It won't deserve. But first we need to validate it. So this is the another issue. Actually, this issue is more complex. I'm bringing out another 2-volume book. Maybe another 3-4 months it will be released. That is the chronology and origins of Indo-European. That will address that there is a similar chronological error of 660 in entire world chronology. If you correct it that, then you can reconcile the all civilizational traditional sources. The problem is almost all ancient civilizations, their chronology, traditional chronology has been rejected because you followed an yardstick first AD as the sheet anchor, then all traditional accounts got falsified. These are the actually tradition. If you validate properly, then you will find the truth. But 200-300 years of disconnect. So now the biggest problem is there is a added responsibility to unlearn. And unlearning is the biggest challenge for a human being.
Understood, sir. Sir, since you talked about the last 400 years, and we will talk about that, I think that is the period where we should discuss in detail, and much of our history has been changed in the last 400 years, that Indian history is this, Indian history is that, and so we can see what all happened in the last 400 years. Sir, can you tell us how did you manage to interpret your findings about the dating of Mahabharata? Because these 400 years, okay, we have evidences, we have many proofs, and we have sculptures and edicts and many things we have. Even we can say 1500 years before as well. But dating the Mahabharata era, that is where it's a difficult thing, and each and every findings you have to be very accurate, and and you have to be very strong in your findings areas, because people will be anytime ready to make false accusation on you as well. But what are the challenges you faced during the findings of the dating of Mahabharata era, and how did you make that, sir?
Till 1784, that Asiatic Society of Bengal, William Jones, he came, and then they started coming up with the modern Indian historical research. Prior to that, anyone had ever doubt that Mahabharata is not a history? Anybody is disputing the dating of Mahabharata? Our tradition is unanimous. 32nd century BC is the Mahabharata. Okay? So it's roughly 5,200 years. This was the tradition existed. But when Western historians came, they started validating the chronology. They never accepted. They simply asked, because we said you are following a Shaka calendar. Yes, today is so and so date, so and so Shaka. Then when it started? 78 AD. Okay, no problem. But the problem is the Varaham era is also mentioning the Shaka 427. Kalidasa is mentioning 445. So naturally, they have to be dated 400 years after 78 AD.
Okay.
How they can be in court of Vikramaditya, who lived at 57 BC? Is impossible.
Complications we face.
So we had no answer. Then they said, "Here you don't know any chronology. We will work out on your chronology." So now, since I told you, there was an ancient Shaka that began, I have established based on the epigraphic and various other facts, that began 583 BC. That was reset in 78 AD. That 583 BC we have forgotten. So entire that chronology, wherever Shaka has been mentioned prior to 78 AD, the history got forward. After 70 AD, we started keeping it. That's why Vikramaditya had no place. If you correct it, you have corrected the 661 years chronological error. Okay. Then what we did, due to some errors in the Jain committed by the Jain historians, they actually equated Chandragupta, who was the king of Ujjain, as a Chandragupta Maurya. Due to that, Buddha and Mahavira became contemporaries.
Okay.
Actually, there is almost 700 years gap between Buddha and Mahavira.
Okay.
If you club both, it is a 1308 year chronological error. If you have, without considering that, modern historians fixed Buddha's date around 483 BC.
Okay.
It is well known for our entire Puranic history, all Puranas, they talk about Mahapadmananda, who lived around 1500 years after Mahabharata war. And Buddha has to be dated 200, 300 years before Nanda's. If you are dating Buddha around 483 BC, then Nanda can't be dated more than 4th century.
100.
Even you add a 1500, it may be 1800 or 1900 BC. Your tradition is completely false.
Understood.
First. And second, so many stories, why should I accept? Where is the evidence, archaeological evidence? So you haven't found anything. Then they started rejecting that your Ramayana, Mahabharata is a fiction.
Okay.
Only up to Buddha is chronology, beyond Buddha is a prehistory. Understood?
Understood.
It means Buddha is a historical, but Buddha's grandfather is a mythical.
Okay.
Okay.
It happens in every
Prehistory means you don't know. It's like he was belonged to a Ikshvaku dynasty, but Ikshvaku's genealogy has been in Puranas at least 100-120 generation even before Buddha.
Understood.
They are all mythical. No problem here. Don't accept Indian sources because you are a ruler, because you have invaded us and you became a ruler here. But at least you look at the Western sources, you say Sandrakotas and Chandragupta, but same historians are saying India has 6,451 years history prior to the arrival of Alexander. It means they're talking about Indian history somewhere began around 7000 BC onwards.
Okay.
They say Indians have a list of 153 kings and they rejected that also. So why? Why they are rejecting all these things? Simple. It's a Bible mindset.
Okay.
It's no scientific fact. 1600, 1700, that era when so-called Renaissance happened, they were by birth Christian. The church was very strong. So even though so-called scientists like Newton or even the Lightfoot, some Western scientists, so they worked on history and chronology, they could not think beyond the Bible. They think that 4000 BC is the only creation. After 1000 years, there is a catastrophic flood. Thereafter, civilization came into existence. So anybody claiming beyond 3000, if you accept it, you are rejecting Bible. So they started dating anything has been archaeology that everything is below 3000. Anybody is claiming the dates or any literary fact or any source that is mythical, that is not trustworthy. There is no scientific fact. Since last 300 years, you are following the same methodology. Now it appears that if you think beyond 3000 BC, you will be tagged as a fool or some kind of a person who talk about something baselessly. So this is the tragedy with the last 300 years of academic research in the history.
Okay.
And chronology.
Okay.
Now we have to deal with this issue. We have to, this is an added response on us to forcing the modern historian. So unlearn and first relearn. So it's a challenge. Truth is a truth. Someday satyameva jayate.
Understood, sir. Sir, I have a small doubt actually. When it comes to the astronomical units, I think you have written a book also. How did the astronomical units helped in arranging the Indian chronology, sir? Because
Yes.
that is where your expertise is there. So I just want to put up a question as like, how did the astronomical units pave way for your findings and the arrangements which you have done, sir?
Yes. No, it's a very pertinent question you have asked. Archaeoastronomy, it's before, I think, maybe before the invention of these computers, it was not so simple because you can only back calculate and something, then you maybe after a few hundred years, the error may be much more. So simulating entire astronomical planetary motions and everything may not be so accurate. But after the computers and recent that JPL Horizons time correction algorithm, because it even incorporates the gravity related and time related corrections, then we can accurately simulate kind of a sky, how ancients have observed. Why it is important in with reference to the Indian civilizations? Because at an early stage, Indians master the astronomy and mathematics. And if you read Rig Veda, the most ancient text of the world talks about very an advanced lunisolar calendar. It means they are already invented how to reconcile the lunar and solar cycles. And apart from that, they have even gone further. They have divided the zodiac into nakshatras. It means they have developed a mathematics equal to some basic trigonometry. Various civilizations followed the lunar calendar, but dividing the zodiac into nakshatras, it is actually a basic trigonometry. You have to take 360-degree division, then divide into 27 or 28 nakshatras. Nakshatra is nothing. At 24 hours, just measuring the moon's motion.
Okay.
In a 24-hour period, moon moved from one degree
Point
to
to another point.
roughly 13.2 degrees it moves.
Okay.
Sometimes slow, sometimes fast. So this is how we identified a day. It's not a number like 1, 2, 3. It is just a very easy job.
Understood.
We used to name a day with reference to a nakshatra in that moon is located. So this is how we followed the highly scientific. Your calendar is not hanging on your wall. You just go at night and see your calendar is visible for you. So this is how we were mastered. That's why all our text from Rig Veda onwards, there are certain hidden astronomical references. Some are very regular, cyclical, but some observations can be dated once in only thousands of years. Then that's an evidence to date the particular text when it was written. Error may be plus minus 500 years. That's all. Then this is the most scientific way, and it is a kind of a archaeology in the sky. And what you are doing in digging in the ground, it is another kind of an archaeology where you are trying to find a material evidence. But absence of material evidence does not necessarily reject your existence prior to the dating of that particular material evidence.
Sir, what are the discrepancies you have faced with the mainstream historians? Because your findings was different, and what are the clashes, challenges, disputes? Or I will put all together. What are the things you have faced with the mainline historians, sir?
The main is their mindset. They think that if you are something talking about beyond 2000 or 3000 BC, you are a fool or you are actually talking something beyond science. It's not science. Whatever they're assuming is science is actually a blind belief or a biblical mindset. Nothing 3000 BC. Then they go and start doing that stratigraphy and archaeology. Then they say below this layer, it is a natural soil, so there is no civilization. Many thousands of years, human civilization generally survived in the wooden houses and all basic amenities, everything existed. Okay. They have done agriculture but lived in wooden houses. Then how do you find that archaeology will find something there? Because if you see only grains, the Lahora Deva in a kind of a lake in Uttar Pradesh, rice and other, they dated around 9000 BC. Okay. It means some agriculture was in practice around 9000 BC. If you go to some Jordan, there is a one archaeological site. They found some bread particles. They dated it. That goes to 12,000 BC. So without agriculture, they could make a bread. Okay.
It is not possible.
It is not. So how ancient is the agriculture? Agriculture and civilizations began together.
Definitely. We have to.
You think that these are not evidences? Apart from that, if some Greek philosophers, their entire Greek tradition is saying that 9,000 years before the Plato's lifetime, an Atlantis city was submerged by sea, so you simply rejected. Suppose same thing would have been written in Bible, so that would have been a truth today. So that 1600, 1700 era, when the real academic research began, and Western academia was dominating, and still they are dominating last 300 years. But the academia started their research and studies into social sciences with the Bible mindset. If the same fact would have been written in Bible, today world history would have been 10,000 BC.
Slightly different.
10,000 BC old. That's all.
So since you mentioned,
So that's why we have first, the entire Western academia is indirectly hypnotized with the Bible mindset. You have to set yourself free from that one. Civilizational existence much more ancient than what is being taught. So the text, traditions, literary evidence, you have to give due credence. You are rejecting simply without even reading.
Sir, since you mentioned the word Western academia and their dominance as well, what does Indian academia or what does the Indian historians need to do, sir?
Simple. You should not simply become a follower and consumer to the Western academia. Presently, this is the fact. If you are a little radical or you are not in the line of the way Western academia thinks or they write an article, then your articles may not be published in their journals. Then you will be outcasted from that. So that's why the people simply follow the same trend, and 99% intellectuals are actually they are only followers. They follow the trend. Okay, so we need to groom the Indian historians that you have to simply get out of this, come with the new research and put better standards. What you are following is not it is first you validate the traditional whatever the information is available, and accept that the archaeoastronomy is also a science. Apart from them, there are many other like a oceanography levels. So a multidisciplinary research is required. Till date, the history and chronology kind of way, it was only based on some archaeology or whatever the timeline they have established last 200, 300 years. They're simply sticking to that and they're not updating themselves. So a multidisciplinary study, even archaeogenetics, there and modern linguistic research are actually indicating that the Indo-European languages dispersed at least 6,000 or 7,000 BC. It means some agrarian people have migrated, not hunter-gatherers. Are a language of if such an advanced language having a scientific words. If such language is transmitting, so properly the agrarian people have migrated, not just hunter gatherers migrated.
Sir, there is a special chapter in your book, and that is referring to the chronology of Tamil Nadu as well.
Yes.
And since you told me that we particularly want to deal, that I have done some research, and we would have a long conversation on that. What are your findings, and how do you see because the distorted history which is presented over there, and how did you see that? And let me put a question by starting by asking you that, sir, there are various timelines, from one Sangam era to the other Sangam era. There are various timelines. How did you access that? And whenever you start finding that, how did you access, like, how did your findings help in the chronological order, sir?
Happened similar problem the way they dealt with the Plato statement that before his lifetime, 9,000 years before Atlantic City was somewhere. Same thing Nakirar, who was writing a commentary on Irayana Ragapur, he was mentioning the Tamil tradition that almost 10,000 years before his lifetime, Maharshi Agastya, he convened the first Sangam. This is the history till Nakirar. Why that became untrustworthy now? Same.
Where did the
You locked yourself that I will not think anything beyond 3000 BC. Or anybody is claiming any antiquity has to be rejected as a mythology because that is violating the Bible dates. Today, instead of Bible, they ask us the archaeological evidence. You show me where is the archaeological evidence. So it's not. He is actually giving the Pandyan kings entire dynastic rule, how many kings ruled, how many poets were there, and even a city that got submerged. When you link up with the sea levels also, it is true. If you go back to 12,000 BC or 11,000 BC, sea level was 120 meter below the present level. Who knows, Ten Madurai may be almost closer to the sea. That Ten Madurai was submerged by sea around after 4,400 years of existence, that city. Thereafter, Kavatapuram, in a second Sangam period, it stood up to 3,600 years. Sea level rose and that city also got submerged. Then modern Madurai became the capital for the third Sangam period. And it is absolutely history and it's converged. The scientific evidence of sea level rise, one. Okay. Second, the Tolkappiyam. Tolkappiyar is dated in the second Sangam. It means he must be dated before the first Sangam. Third Sangam.
third son?
So then second Sangam also, he is being dated after Valmikinar. It means Tolkappiyar lived before Mahabharata era, after Ramayana era. And so that's why roughly we can date around 5000 BC, 3200 is the Mahabharata, around roughly 5000 or 4500 maybe the antiquity of the Tolkappiyam itself. And Tolkappiyam is referring to Irayana Ragappuram, some are there. So now Irayana Raga much more older than, and this is the Tamil tradition. Irayana is the oldest text written in the first Sangam period. Even Agatyam, Agastya wrote the Vyakarana. This is our true tradition and history. And that is, and what happened other than Tamil regions, we mixed up the historical timelines and the Yuga cycles. Yuga was a calendar, later Yuga cycles was enlarged. We mixed up, then we some way could not reconcile after the Gupta era. Prior to Gupta, we had some chronology. This is the reason why Megasthenes says 6,405, 15 years of history Indians have. He is not talking about lakhs and crores of years. It is only during Gupta era we mixed up the historical timelines and the Yuga cycles. But Tamil Nadu kept their true chronology independent to the Yugas. That's why they are simply counting as per the how many years Ten Madurai survived, how many years Kavatapuram survived. It is very scientifically we have preserved our chronological history. And when you reconcile with the archaeoastronomical date, it perfectly matches. Because Rishi Agastya's time and the Daksha Prajapati when he was doing when Falguna Purnamasi and this Mrigashira Nakshatra was at winter solstice was at Mrigashira Nakshatra when you converge it. Then both archaeoastronomy and the Tamil traditions converges. And it is true around 11,200 BC, same Rishi Agastya who was writing Vedic Suktas in Vedic Sanskrit and he also writing the Tamil Vyakaranam. So he was the first bilingual person so both Vedic Sanskrit and Tamil language are a sister languages born to the same mother. They are not different language families.
Sir, since I come from Tamil Nadu, I want to put you a very controversial question as well.
Yeah.
And this has been debated for a very long time in the history that Hindus are not Tamils, or that I will put it in opposite ways. Tamils are not Hindus. And even during the time of the grand Ponniyin Selvan release also, so some of the directors, even actor Kamal Hassan has made a comment that Cholas have been depicted or portrayed as Hindus for a very long time. And we all know how Tanjai big temple, Brageshwara temple has been built. And so in a way, this narrative has been there for a very long time. And how do you deal with it, or how you see this, whether as the historians or the film directors say that Tamils are not Hindus? What is your say on that, sir?
You just tell me whether this kind of a controversy ever existed before 1800 AD? Never. One idiot called Caldwell came saying that Aryans have invaded, they enslaved you and they taught their religion to you. That is how you became the Hindu. It is like that. A new neighbor came into. He started, I have a doubt whether your father is your father or not. You have, how can I am a then every day he started, then someday I started doubting that whether my father is my real father or not. Since I started respecting my neighbor, I started doubting. This is the same syndrome with the Tamil side. One idiot called Caldwell came. He said that, no, these languages are different. He is actually a Christian pastor. He wanted to spread the Christianity. And his objective was to divide Indians. So naturally, he said color. Naturally, we South Indians are a little black than the North Indian a little fair. So then, okay, you are different race. So he came with this color-based kind of or skin-based racism he has brought. You're different. But prior to that, we never seen differently. Entire India used to converse in Sanskrit or Prakrit as a national language. We had our local language, and our local language is also having enough Sanskrit words. Why? Because we are all had a same culture. Different. You may be wearing different clothes, or you may be having a different food habits and other. That does not mean that you are. It happens. It's such a vast country. It's not that there was a different civilization existing before the Hind. It's not. Even you go before all traces. Our entire Tamil history starts from the Pandyan kings. and Pandyan kings and Rishi Agastya, and they started writing the Tamil grammar. Then all Tamil poetry still available in Irayana Ragappural. You think that Irayana Ragappural has been written after this Caldwell came? Then you read Irayana Ragappural. It is what else? It is written by Irayanar.
Irai
This is not a Hindu.
Irai is a god actually.
It's
Irai
not Hindu, you want to say. What is Hindu words? It is this land. We belong to this land. We were the first settlers of this land. We don't know what was the antiquity, but whenever we civilized on this earth only. Okay? And Irayanar is one of our forefathers, including Tamilians. Actually, is so how we can differentiate that so-called Hindu civilization, I think, did not exist in Tamil Nadu. It is absolutely, I can say, idiotic, and it is only politically they want to divide. Due to that certain political reason, they started looking at even some archaeological evidences as coming up more ancient than the what we can find in North India. So let us claim some different civilization exists. No, because our antiquity goes back to more than 10,000 to 12,000 BC.
Okay.
So naturally, most ancient civilization, and even I can say that Indians were the first, were the enlightened civilizations. They taught entire world. That's why Bharat was called Vishwaguru. That's why recently, the even so-called Iron Age. Now the evidence of iron, that what has been found in Tamil Nadu, that has been dated to 3400 BC. Okay. But that doesn't mean before that we have no idea. Initially, that you have no idea about iron before 1500 BC. Even earlier, it was that India has no idea of chariots. But now that is 2000 BC, chariot is available in that one. This kind of a dating or speculative dating is not the way to read a civilization. You have to first follow the traditional, whatever the archaeological evidence, that is actually complementary to the traditional and literary evidence. You interpret in there, but nothing hard evidence you will not find in India, because we never built any, means Indian kings never built any memorials for themselves, the way the Egyptians and others they have done it. And same thing has been recorded by Megasthenes. Indian kings never built anything. They're like a common people, and after death, cremation, that's all. No memorial will be built over it. Whatever they can build it, they can build temples. So temples are existing. Temples have been reconstructed many times. Originally wooden temples. Then thereafter, even originally we have only wooden idols only. Then we found that we need to then we have switched over to the stone-based idols. This is how slowly we will know at the same place we have re-erected the modern temples. Maybe 1000 years, 2000 years back. Okay, but the importance of the place is links to the history. Why? Because once Shiva came and stayed at Coimbatore, that's why that is a Siddha Kshetra. It is not just like that. Okay, so the importance is like that. Even like Mahendra Parvata. Why? Maharshi Agastya's real name was, or his son's name was Mahendra. Agastya Ashrama existed on that Parvata. That's why that is the importance of that. So this way, if you link up the entire history, then your tradition is Vedic and the Sangam, both actually started their journey together. Just thinking yourself that we are different, it is not. That's why I'm saying Tamil and Vedic Sanskrit, both languages born to same mother. Vedic Sanskrit is a kind of an artificially evolved language, like a programming languages. Tamil has a natural language and a little grammar, they kept it. That's why this Tamil language is also same antiquity. And there is, it's the same. You can't differentiate. And if we see real Vedic civilization even today exists, that exists only in South, even in Tamil Nadu that exists. North is already corrupted. So we have to say that we belong to Indian civilization, not any Hindu religion or non-Hindu religion.
Understood, sir. Sir, I think even in Tulkapiyam, there was a mention, I think he had divided the land masses into 5 categories. That is Kurunji, Mullai, Maradam, Needal and Palai.
Yeah.
For each and every land, he has, what to say, he has given a specific god. One is Vishnu, and one is Lord Kartikeya, and one is Kali. So we can keep on saying about that as well. So can we tell that, so these are the I think this is the Hindu history which Tamil Nadu had. So as you said, the Caldwell and followed by the Dravidian history as well. So which is not different from the Caldwell history as well. It is a continuation, we can say. So this is where in the last 200 to 300 years, the entire narrative distortions, fake narratives have been proposed to the people of Tamil Nadu.
Again, here issue is the chronology. Why they are thinking, even though they accept Tolkappiyam, but they say it is too much of Sanskrit words he is using, that's why he must be dated after 800 AD something. But if you true dating, whatever the dating Tamil Nadu followed, they are actually dating Tolkappiyam in the second Sangam period.
Exactly, sir.
So you put in the middle to some way to compensate here and there. His antiquity goes back to not less than 4500 BC. Then why you are dating 800? Because mindset. You want to show the Aryan invasion. So some fair and Sanskrit speaking people came, they converted. So the converted Hindu Tolkappiyam wrote Tolkappiyam. This is the what
Tiruvalur has been told like that only.
this game.
Tiruvalur has been imposed by Aryan something.
No, it is totally disgusting, and the kind of a research, whatever the narrative there, it is just some kind of a hidden Christian agenda there. They want to tell that you are not Hindus, you should become Hindu hater. It is Tamil civilization, so whatever the culture or the literature is, it is the real Hindu literature and much more ancient than what is available. And actually, there is both are equal. Tamil literature and Sanskrit literature both are concurrent and the most ancient text available. So the Irayana Ragapurul has to be kept along with the Vedas. That kind of an antiquity both. If Irayana and Agastya were contemporaries, and they have a 10,000 years history beyond Nakkirar, and this was the history available in Tamil Nadu, not written by a kind of a converted. It means that you have to set Nakkirar also, then Aryan invasion. So these are all false narratives, and the kind of a particular narrative has been built upon during the colonial period with an objective to propagate Christianity and divide the Hindus. This is the reason. Prior to that, there was no difference at all. Every South Indian wants to go and see the Kashi.
Kashi and Rameshwaram are the
And
even till now, sir.
even till now. And you count so many Nayanars. Problem is we need to establish the chronology. Then you can understand what is the real history of this nation. We never know what kind of migrations and remigrations happened. But whenever we civilized or whenever we learnt agriculture in this land, from there onwards, entire India belonged to the one family. It is the only why Sanskrit texts always talk about north to south migration is because 25,000 BC before, South India was not even populated properly because due to Toba eruption, lot of devastation happened, everything. Only few guys could survive, and finally, we are all, that also genetic research also proves, all out of ancestry, R1A1, that R1, 39% of Indians belong to only one male ancestor, that is R1. So they are found in Kanyakumari also, and they are found in Kashmir also. They may be very fairer guys and the black guy in Tamil Nadu, but both are born to the same father. So this skin color based thinking is totally foolish, as well as it's actually a destructive and negative ideology.
Sir, I think your each and every chapter can be done as a separate podcast as well.
Yes.
Sir, how do you differentiate your findings as well as with the mainstream historians as well? Because in Tamil Nadu, even many things, as you said, are associated with the missionary backings or missionary findings as well. So, how do you differentiate your findings? Not with them actually, with the mainstream historians, sir.
No. What are the mainstream historians? What? They have only taught textbooks written during the colonial era, and that is also narrative. Then 99% of the historians never ever researched in the chronology. They know that this is the date. Why this date? They have never validated, and they have no interest also to learn it. I am actually bringing the chronology because without that you can't write a history. Chronology is the foundation of history. So first, there are some problems in the chronology has to be addressed, but modern historians they don't they are not ready to accept it that there is some problem in the chronology. So now there is a issue here. we need to establish that there are certainly problems in the chronology which needs to be addressed. The problem is, if there is some error in the chronology, that cannot be addressed in pockets. You need to review entire chronology. So that's why they are compromised to okay, and maybe some are problem, but finally overall this is the chronology. Because there is a greater homework you have to you. It's a kind of a big jigsaw puzzle. If you are even disturbing one piece, then the onus is on you to rearrange everything again. To avoid, they want whatever the way it has been arranged, it is the only way to do it. There is no alternative. So that's not. So now we need to educate the history students and history teachers. Please look into the chronology also. Try to understand the traditional chronology, how the chronology got distorted, how to correct it. So we need to introduce very in-depth research work in the chronology in the university. That's why I always in the vice chancellors and others, please open a department of chronology so that the students will take up the chronological research academically. Then there may be a meaningful dialogue. Otherwise, a knowledgeable person can't argue or debate with the person who has no knowledge in the chronology. So there is no way you can have any debate or a dialogue between the historian and the chronologist like us, because he knows only narrative. I am saying that first let us look at the chronology, but he has no idea how chronology has been. So that's why this is the biggest challenge to even to start a debate.
Understood, sir. Sir, can you give us a small glimpses about the three Sangam eras from first Sangam era? Since you talked about all these things, can you give us a small glimpses about all these three Sangam eras? Sir? Because this is where we need to tell, okay, here it starts and here it starts. Because I have read the timeline, I must say completely I forget the because each and every number is difficult. I must say, because I'm not a chronological expert as well. So give us a small glimpse of the three Sangam eras. Sir.
First, how to fix the timeline of three Sangam eras given by the Nakkirar. Before doing so, it is extremely important because we have a Cheran Senguttuvan. Nakkirar was somewhere close to that period. Maternal grandfather of Cheran Senguttuvan was great Karikala, who built Kalanai Dam in Trichy. Okay, so how to fix that one? So we have taken some kind of Shilappadikaram. They refer up to some Gajabahu, Sri Lankan king. Sri Lankan chronology is dependent on Buddha Nirvana.
Okay.
You started Buddha Nirvana considering the 483 BC. Then you fixed the Gajabahu's time, somewhere 1st century BC or 1st century AD. Then you started equating the Cheran Senguttuvan, saying that this is the somewhere 1st AD around plus minus 50 years is the date of Karikala. This is the you fixed it. Then saying that Nakkirar may be the same time, he's saying 10,000 years of chronological history. What I am saying, no. First you correct that chronological error of 1381 years in the Buddha. Once you correct it, you have to go back to 1200 years back.
Understood.
So it is around 1200 BC. At the time Karikala existed. It means Kalanai Dam is 3200 years old, even more. Because what I'm getting on the Cheran Senguttuvan is 1200 BC, but Karikala may be another 30-40 years timeline. So 1225, if we can roughly, we'll take it 20 years. 3250-year-old dam is still functional, but due to chronological, it's a maximum 2000 years old. Once you fix that, then you fix so his time and everything, it goes to 1250 or 1270. Then you add 1850 years. Then it goes to Mahabharata period, 3122 BC.
Okay.
This was the time when Dwaraka was also submerged and Kavatapuram also. Understood?
Understood, sir.
So this is how you link up the submergence of Kavatapuram and Dwaraka submergence happened almost at the same time.
Okay.
Why? A kind of a grand tsunami hit. And that tsunami came due to that one Burkle crater, piece of comet or a big asteroid that hit that area near Madagascar. Actually, that created at least 100-meter high tsunami in the Madagascar. Same tsunami traveled towards India and it submerged Dwaraka and Kavatapuram. Sudden submergence. Then, same king, the last king of the second Sangam era, he rushed and settled in Madurai, modern Madurai. and he was the first king of the third Sangamira. So the sudden submergence ended the second Sangamira. Now, from Mahabharata era, you have to go back to 3600 years back to have a second Sangamira. Then you add on 4400 years there. So the first Sangamira began somewhere 11,222 BC, ended around 6,822. Then second Sangamira started 6,822 BC to 3,122 BC. Then from there it comes 1272 BC is the end of the third Sangamira. Then why that ended? It's actually Pandyans were ruling over such a long time. Now Cholas became very prominent power in entire that. Okay, Karikala, that was the time. Then all Sangam paper recompiled and everything, though they won, but that the Pandyan power has actually diminished. It's not that some way kind of a why the tradition got dealing. It is not it is continued thereafter since Cholas came, so they ended the Pandyan kingdom. That's why 3850, it's not the end of the Sangamira, it is actually end of the third Pandyan dynasty. Cholas continued the same research. It only later when Kalabhras came, that period starts somewhere 1000 BC, 300 years of the disconnect. That so-called dark period in Tamil history is those Kalabhras. Thereafter again Chola, Chera, Pandyas, they re-established and ruled over. This is the chronology post Sangamira that become that Kalabhras only. Actually, that is the end. Prior to that only all our the Shilapadikaram was written, even that ancient only Manimekhalai was written later during the Buddha's period when Buddhas became more prominent in Tamil Nadu at that, because there is a reference in the Manimekhalai and others. That is the 500 BC or another. This is how the entire chronology we have, if we see, then same Rishi Agastya, who is writing the Vedic hymns, contemporary of Irayanar, you have second Sangamira. We are talking about Valmiki Ramayana era. So Ramayana era is between the second Sangamira. So I have dated 2400 years before Mahabharata. It is 5672 BC or 74 BC was the date of birth year of Sri Rama. So that is the Valmiki. So after Valmiki only you will count the Tolkappiyam. The Tolkappiyam was written that time. So 7000 years old text you have, the Tolkappiyam in that. Then you see the what kind of a Tamil language was practiced 7000 years, Then you look at the Irayanaraga Poral. So that gives you the so much of pride that your ancestors, the way they spent a lot of time on knowledge creation, not the wealth creation. Okay. The wealth creation or wealth actually began only after post Mahabharata and this after Maurya period. Then we went into more trade and that's where our affluence came. Prior to that, we were simple people living in wooden houses and mostly agriculture. And then you are only working on astronomy, mathematics, literature only. And we always glorified a person having a knowledge is the greater person, is not a person having the wealth is not a great person in the society. And great king is not a conqueror. A great king is one who has sacrificed a lot for his subjects. So that kind of an ideal society existed. Now you go and do archaeology, you may not find anything beyond 2000 BC or 2500 BC. That does not mean that you reject entire your tradition and literary evidence. That is not the way to deal. You have a multidisciplinary approach I am giving. Archaeoastronomy, it is you can date accurately also. And do the oceanographic studies, that also matches. Do the genetic studies, so all these things, and even linguistic studies. This kind of a multidisciplinary approach is required. So that's why only historian can't work on chronology. Not only linguist can't work on, only geneticist cannot work on the chronology. All subjects we have to master and then work on the chronology. What we need to do, we have to bring in front of the world academia, there is a problem in the chronology. First, recognize it. Even you may feel that there is no problem. What is wrong if you review comprehensively and address every piece of evidence and then work on the chronology? At least impartial and very academic debate must begin.
Sir, I want to put up two questions over here. You have dated Maharishi Agastya to 11300 to 11210 BC. And what supports his early existence, sir? Because I just want to have a too brief discussion on this. And the Gajababu synchronism you have used often in the chapter 21, which is used to date the Tamil literature to the 2nd century CE, if I'm not wrong. And you placed it in 1167 to 1147 BCE. How do you find the counter arguments against the conventional dating, sir?
This Gajabahu I have explained you. That is linked with the Buddha Nirvana.
Okay.
If you have dated wrongly Buddha Nirvana, you are dating wrongly Gajabahu.
Okay. So it's like interlinked.
I know.
Uh-huh.
Entire your South Asian history is interlinked. The Gajabahu from where? You have taken Mahavansha, Dipavansha. Mahavansha, Dipavansha start Buddha Nirvana onwards. So, once Buddha's date is incorrect, then Gajabahu's date also incorrect.
Okay.
You have to work on that. Without that, you can't arrive the Tamil timeline. So that you can go back, these are all 3 Sangam periods and come with the chronology. This is how I have corrected the Buddha Nirvana. There is a 1380 years problem and almost 1275 years problems from the second Buddhist conference took place during the Ashoka's time. If you count from there, so this is how 1200 BC to 1100 BC was the time. From there you have to go back to 10,000 years, so the 11,200 BC. So that is the date of Agastya. Because 10,000 history of 3 Sangams is well documented. Now where to start? From 1st century CE or 1200 BC? And that reconciles with the archaeoastronomicality of Sanskrit text. So that was the time Daksha, he was performing the yajna. Understood? So when you do this chronological dating, like Atharva Veda, they talk about the Kritika nakshatras, 28 nakshatras. Kritika was the first nakshatra. Now, when that one? That can't be dated. Some historians date somewhere 2100, 2200 BC. You cannot date Atharva Veda after Mahabharata traditionally. They consider vernal equinox at Kritika. But actually, winter solstice at Kritika, this took place somewhere 9200 BC. So that was the date of Atharva Veda. That especially that Nakshatra Sukta was recompiled during that period. So all post Rigvedic text, they talk about the Kritika nakshatras beginning with the Kritika. So they belong to that period. Then there is a like Aitareya Brahmana and other, they talk about Rohini. So it means 1,000 years before this period, the 10,200 periods. Then we talk about that great Orion, what Balagangadhar Tilaka talk about on Agrayana and Mrigashira Nakshatra. You just go another 1,000 years, that 11,200 BC was the time when Daksha was performing the yajna. And Shiva and Agastya existed during that period. This is how you converse the Tamil tradition as well as the Vedic tradition together. Then you can easily date because Agastya belong to both traditions. Irayanar belong to both traditions. It is not different. One tradition only. We actually looking in the different way. Since 2 different languages, but it's not different languages. Once upon a time, they were almost closer to a same natural language. Sanskrit has been evolved as one English is there. From English only you evolved the programming languages, and natural language English also is in practice now. So Sanskrit is actually evolved from there. But natural language remains same now 10,000 the Tamil language it became. Both are evolved from the same language, same nature. So in a way we can say that is the oldest language, yes, because Sanskrit was evolved out of it.
Okay.
Where the natural language. So if anything is closer to natural language is what? Tamil.
Understood, sir. Sir, what are your thoughts on the archaeological findings in Keeladi, Adichanallur, and other sites as well? And because does your chronology align with their findings?
Yes, because they're all related to our Sangam era. Where you date only 1st century, then you think that Sangam era also not existed before 300 BC. This is the wrong methodology. You correct first the 1200, 1300 years problem in the chronology of Buddha. Then you reconcile with the archaeological findings. Then naturally the periods what we have excavated, they belong to Tamil period. If that area where we found that iron, 3,400 means that area belong to the 2nd Sangam period. We were well advanced, and it shows our text also show that we had the knowledge of iron even from the somewhere post Vedic era onwards. But generally because it trust, We have not used that more in your day-to-day life. We use more copper and bronze. But when we invented that wood steel, then we started using that wood steel more prominently. The iron usage in India began in a extensive only once wood steel got invented. Prior to that, we have not used much because it rust and it we normally considered that metal as an impure. We use mostly copper and the bronze, and our whatever the necessities have been fulfilled with only these 2-3 metals. We managed with that instead of using iron. But that does not mean that iron age only begins, but wherever iron reference is there, that has to be dated only after 1500 BC. That is not scholarly view.
Understood, sir. So I think we have spoken a lot about Sangam era. I would like to end this discussion with two last questions. So do you believe that Tamil Nadu history is studied in isolation rather than a part of larger Indian narrative?
Yeah, this is the biggest problem is during the Britishers period and earlier, there was no such kind of a division. Why? Because we used to converse in Sanskrit language. Because that time English never existed before 1700. Okay. Even 1800, I can say, I must say it. So, how we used to communicate? We used to travel a lot. How Adi Shankara traveled entire India. How you could communicate? English language tha, Sanskrit are Prakrit languages. Okay. So when you are talking to the same languages, there was you never had anything, you are a different people. Now the problem started only after colonial era. We replace Sanskrit with the English to communicate between others. So you are actually communicating in a foreign language, and your language is also becoming foreign to them because they never learned Tamil language. This is actually divided us. The introduction of English in India as a national language is actually dividing us because the language is foreign.
Understood, sir. Sir, your message to the fellow Tamil historians or historical enthusiasts, what is your message to not only Tamil, to the Indian historians or the Indian history buffs, someone or who is interested in the chronology, something like that, sir?
First, we must address it as the one civilization nation. It is the one Indian civilization from Vedic era to till date, or first Sangam, Tamil Sangam to till date. One civilization. And if we say true sense, the kind of a Tamil or Vedic civilization, even today, something is preserved in the South India only, and specifically Tamil Nadu. The so many Nayanars and Alavars followed Shiva or Vishnu. The kind of a literature we have, it is only one civilization. We should not look at North as a something aliens to us, or North should not look Tamil as a something different. This problem came only last 200-300 years. We have to come out of this. Let us learn each other's language and let us have one Indian language as a national language, because we can't make many languages as a nation. We can't communicate with each other. Probably let us revive Sanskrit as a national language. Then it will change the entire perception of the nation. You all belong to the one civilization, and all are all. Even one Indian language, that creates a problem that somebody is dominating on you or you are dominating on. God knows, if let us teach Tamil everything, let us make Tamil as a national language for the entire country. That's true, because this is the most ancient natural language. So both deserves to be a national languages. So we must come with instead of 3 languages, there should be 4 language. Every Indian must learn a Tamil language, because this is the only language which closer to our first natural language of entire.
Thank you so much, sir. It was wonderful talking to you, and I request you should give more of a podcast series to us. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.